Hello! So I promised you guys that I would start doing tutorials, so here we go. And I want to say that I should probably apologize right off the bat because this is probably going to end up pretty weird looking. But I'm doing my best. Obviously, since I'm taping myself for the first time and Ryan is editing it for the first time, I can only imagine it's going to end up looking like the orientation video in Lost that has a lot of strange cuts where you're like, I think we missed something there. Was there no, we didn't miss anything. That's just the way it looks. It's very artistic. Maybe I should have said that. But anyway, the tutorial is kind of like a modern take on embroidery because growing up I loved embroidery and cross stitch and all that kind of stuff. And now, if you want to do something like that and you want to get a pattern, you know, if you go to Joann Fabrics, there's an aisle of patterns, but they're all like, you know, roses and vines and things like that, sunflowers. And if you like those things, then hey, that's great. You know what? There's a whole aisle of patterns waiting for you. But I'm not crazy about that. So I went on the hunt looking for patterns that were a little more modern, and I found some. This is one of them. It's a website called Sublime Stitching, and I feel like I should probably be getting a little kickback for showing this, but whatever. I love these. They're super cute, and I have, I shouldn't even let you see how many I have of these patterns, but I love them. They're so cute. But even with those, you know, what if I wanted something bigger, one of her designs bigger, or what if I wanted to do something completely different, like the Ron Burgundy pillow I did? There's no pattern for that, obviously, so I had to figure out a way to make my own pattern. And I did a couple different things initially, and it was always kind of a bear, so when I stumbled across doing it this way, I was like, oh, this is so easy. I don't know why I had never thought of it before. And like I said, since I'm sure this is something that's not new, it's not like I've invented this, someone could be watching and been like, duh, you know, anyone could have told you to do it this way. Whatever, I didn't know, maybe you don't know, so now I'm showing you. So, to do this, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need paper and pen, and if you're super good at drawing, that's, you know, the only thing you're going to need, whatever. Just don't rub it in. And if you're like me and you need a lot of electronic help to draw, you're going to need obviously a computer and a printer. And then after that, you need tracing paper. And this is from Joann's too. I feel like this should be sponsored by Joann Fabric, but it's not. So you could get this at any craft store. But I got this at Joann's, and it must have cost below $10, under $10. I actually have no idea why I said that, because I have no idea how much it costs. I probably should have looked that up beforehand, but whatever. It wasn't expensive. We'll leave it at that. And then you're also going to need an iron-on transfer pen and an embroidery hoop, embroidery floss, which I love picking out because you can choose from like 200 different colors. It's awesome. And I know these two colors don't go together well, so I just wanted to show you what full ones look like. But, you will need a needle, and you don't have to have a pin cushion, but I made this one, and so I thought I would show it to you. Super cute. So you're also going to need a piece of fabric and scissors. So from here, I'm going to show you how to make your design, and then we'll be back and I'll show you the next step. Okay? Okay. So from here I'm going to show you how you can take whatever picture you want and make it into an image that you can embroider. So I'm lucky enough to have Photoshop, which I know a lot of people are not lucky enough to have. And if you have it, you pretty much know how to edit a picture and flip it horizontally. So I'm going to skip Photoshop completely and just go right to the internet, where Ryan found a website that will allow you to do what you need to do for this. So he chose this picture of himself, and the name of the website is befunky.com. I'm sure there's a less ridiculous website out there, but this is one that he found. So you just need to upload the photo, it'll come up, and then what you're going to do is you're going to go to Artsy, Sketcher, and click on the Sketcher 2 button. And what it'll do is it'll make this so that it's an outline that you can easily trace onto the tracing paper, and then you can transfer to your fabric. So then this stuff over here just kind of changes the noise of the image and stuff like that. So you can play around with that until you get it how you think is the best. And then the one thing I don't want to forget to say is that you have to, when you're going to print this or save it, you have to flip the image so that it's a mirror image of itself, because when you're going to trace it, you're going to trace the top side and then flip it onto the paper to iron it on, or onto the fabric to iron it on. So when you print it out, it needs to be a mirror image. So for this, you're going to go to Edit and Rotate Flip, and you're going to flip horizontally. So you can see that flipped, and then you can save this to your computer and print it. I don't think there's a way you can print this. This prints it onto like mugs and t-shirts, so I think you're going to have to save this to your computer and then print it out that way. So this also has text you can put in there with different fonts and stuff like that. You can mess around with that as well. So that's how you can create your image that you're going to trace. Okay, so now you have your super cool design done, and you just need to get it onto your fabric. So for this tutorial, I just decided to do words that just use font. So I chose this super factual statement, and I actually want to take this a minute to tell you guys a little bit, or talk a little bit about fonts, because I love fonts. I love like fonts like this that are kind of funky, you know, retro or whatever. But fonts like this are kind of difficult to embroider. I mean, they're not impossible, and someone who's really good at embroidering would probably be like, what are you talking about? But I find it kind of difficult to do, just because filling them in, it takes a little more stitch work, and it sometimes can look kind of messy. That I just don't find it easy to do. So I usually steer towards fonts like this, handwritten fonts. Still the factual statement, just a different font. So that's what I usually use. And like I told you in the other section, I hope, I always forget, you have to flip it horizontally. I'm telling you guys, I forget every single time. And every time I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't believe I forgot again. But okay, so I'm going to tell you another time. Don't forget to flip your graphic. So from there, we're going to take our tracing paper, and you don't have to use a full sheet, you can just use however much you have for the design. So you're going to take your tracing paper and you're just going to trace over it, over the design. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the transfer pen, because the way the transfer pen works, you have to, you know, push down on the tip to get the ink to come to the end, and a lot of times it kind of makes the ink a little gloppy. So you kind of have to be careful about that, because if you get a big glop on your transfer paper, you're obviously going to get a big glop on your fabric, and sometimes if it's big enough, you won't be able to cover it over with the embroidery floss, and that's a real pain, because it'll, you know, you don't want to have a big ugly on there, and so it can ruin it. So you just have to be very, very careful of how thick it comes out of the pen. So here you go, you have your tracing paper. All you need to do now is iron that onto your fabric, which I already did because I'm super tricky. So that's your design, and what I'm going to show you next is how to embroider this. And it's going to be a quick tutorial because I'm just going to show you the basics. Plus, I am not a fancy embroiderer. In fact, someone could watch this and be like, you're doing it all wrong, which, hey, whatever. I don't think I am, and everything I made has come out okay, so I think it's okay. But anyway, I'll show you how to do quick, easy way embroidery. So that's next. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your embroidery hoop, and an embroidery hoop comes with two pieces. It has the piece without the screw and then the piece with the screw. So what you're going to do is take the part without the screw, and it's going to go underneath the fabric. Now, I don't know if you can tell this from looking at this video, because it's not close enough probably, but the plastic ones have a tiny bit of a lip on them, and that lip is going to go toward the fabric. And for the first time ever, I see it has these words that says, this side up. So apparently you'll be able to figure that out quite easily. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is going to go underneath the fabric, and then the part with the screw is going to go on top, and it's just going to click on there, and then you just have to tighten it. So you want your fabric to be pretty taut in there. Very taut, actually. Not just pretty taut, very taut. So as you screw it in, I always try to tug on it a little bit so that I get it taut. Again, this is probably a huge no-no in the embroidery field, but it's what I do, so that's what I'm showing you. Okay, so now it's all taut in here. So now you have to get your embroidery floss. Now, first off, I want to point out that embroidery floss comes with comes in a piece that has actually 6 strands of thread in it. So you only need to use the amount of floss that you want for the thickness of the stitches. So a lot of times patterns or things like that will only call for 3 strands. I think that might be the normal, 3 strands out of embroidery floss. But like I said, it really just depends on what thickness you want those stitches to be. So blah blah blah. For this tutorial, I'm just going to use the entire piece of floss. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to need to make a knot at the end. So what I do is I take my finger, I wrap the floss around it, and I grab it where it intersects, and I roll it down to the tip of my finger, and then I grab the top of that little part that it's created and I pull it down, and that creates a knot. Just a little FYI, Ted is stealing the floss, but whatever. I won't yell at him because we're on camera. We're in front of company, Ted. Okay, so anyway, piece is knotted. So what you do is you go to the top of the, or wherever you want to start, we'll say the top of this L. So you bring your floss up through the bottom, and you go down, what, 1/8 of an inch or so, however long you really want the stitches to be. It really just depends on you. So there are many different kinds of embroidery stitches. I always do a chain stitch. I think it's just because that's what I was taught initially, and I really like the way it looks, but there are many different ways to do embroidery. So I'm going to show you the kind that I always do, the chain stitch. So what you do when you do your next stitch is you go past that first stitch up into your fabric, and then you go back down into that last stitch. So it'll look like a little chain. So then you just keep doing the same thing. You go to the next, go back through that last stitch, and you just keep going. So eventually, obviously, you're going to run out of floss. Or maybe you're going to want to change colors or something like that. So you're going to need to tie this off, the thread off. So what you do for that is you flip it over, and you take your needle and you go underneath those stitches that you've done. but you have to be careful not to go through the fabric. So you pull it almost all the way through, and then it'll create a little loop, and you put your needle and thread through that. And I do it again because I want to try and make a good knot. So I double that or inside the loop twice, and then you just pull on it, and that creates a knot. So then you just cut that off, and ta-da! You've got an amazing piece of embroidery. Alright, and so now I'll get to the next part. Okay, so that's it. I've taught you how to make something super cool and super original, and sky's the limit. You can make anything you want. And just so you know, it won't bother me if you want to use Lizzie rules or a picture of Ralph and Ted. Totally fine. I won't say you're copying or anything because I get it. It's super cool. But if you're like me, you could make something like this. Right? Stephen Colbert! I know I'm weird and crazy. So that does it for the first tutorial. And for those of you guys out there who are worried that I'm not going to do another one, let me put your mind at ease. I will definitely be back for another one. So until then, catch you on the flip. Bye!